I'm 106 years old, and I've outlived just about everyone I ever loved. That's not something people tell you about living this long. They talk about the birthday cards, the candles, the congratulations, but they don't talk about the quiet. The kind of quiet that settles into a house when there's no one left calling your name. Most mornings, I wake up before the sun, not because I want to, just because my body doesn't sleep the way it used to. I sit in the same old chair by the window, the one my wife picked out nearly 50 years ago. It creaks a little when I lean back. Everything does now. And I wait. Sometimes for the coffee to finish brewing, sometimes for the day to pass. Now, I've had doctors, young ones mostly, look at me like I'm some kind of mystery. They flip through their notes, check my pulse, ask the same questions over and over again. How are you still alive? That's what they want to know. And I always give them the same answer. I tell them it's nothing special. But that's not the truth. You see, people like simple answers. They want to believe there's one secret, one thing they can do to live longer. A pill, a diet, a trick, something easy they could hold on to. And I suppose I could have told you the same thing years ago. But when you've lived this long, you learn that nothing about staying alive is simple. Still, if you ask anyone who knows me, or what little is left of them, they'll tell you I've been eating the same 6 foods for years now. Every day, almost without fail. 6 foods. That's what people latch on to. They write it down, repeat it, pass it along like it's some kind of magic formula. But what they don't understand is that those 6 foods didn't come into my life during the good years. They came after everything fell apart. Each one of them carries a memory, not just of health, but of loss, of regret, of moments I wish I could go back and do differently. There's one in particular I still have trouble looking at. Funny thing is, back when I was younger, I didn't think much about what I ate. None of us did. We ate what was on the table, what was easy, what tasted good after a long day. I thought I had time, plenty of it, time to fix things, time to slow down, time to take care of myself later. That's what we all think, don't we? Later. But later has a way of sneaking up on you, and by the time you realize it's here, something's already been taken from you. For me, it wasn't just my health. It was something much harder to get back. And the truth is, I didn't start eating those 6 foods because I wanted to live longer. I started because I was afraid I wouldn't. Because one day, sitting in a place I never thought I'd be, I heard something I couldn't ignore anymore. Something that changed the way I lived, the way I ate, the way I saw the time I had left. And I remember thinking, clear as day, if I get another chance, I won't waste it. But by then, the worst day of my life had already happened. I was born in a time when life moved slower, and in some ways, I think that saved us. This was back in the early 1900s, in a small town where everybody knew your name, and your business too, whether you liked it or not. We didn't have much, but we didn't think about that. You worked, you ate, you slept, and you did it all over again the next day. My father worked with his hands. Long hours, rough work. My mother kept the house running like clockwork. And the kitchen, that's where everything seemed to come together. I can still see her standing by the stove, apron tied tight, stirring a pot of something simple. Beans, vegetables, maybe a bit of meat if we had it. Nothing fancy. No labels, no ingredients you couldn't pronounce. Just food that came from the land or the market down the road. We didn't talk about healthy eating back then. Nobody counted calories or read nutrition charts. You just ate what was put in front of you, and you were grateful for it. And you know what? Most of us were just fine. As I got older, life didn't change all that much. I went to work early, like most boys did. Learned to keep my head down, do my job, and not complain. That was the way things were. Then one day, I met her. There wasn't anything dramatic about it. No music playing, no big moment. Just a quiet introduction at a church gathering. She had a way of listening when you spoke, like what you were saying mattered. That stuck with me. We got married not long after. Again, nothing fancy. A small ceremony, a few people, a simple meal afterward. But I remember thinking, this is it. This is what a good life looks like. We built everything together from the ground up. A home, a routine, a family. We had children, raised them the best we knew how. Supper was always at the same time, 6 o'clock, no matter what. That table, it meant something. It wasn't just about food. It was about being there, talking about the day, sharing stories, sometimes arguing a little, sometimes laughing, but always together. Looking back now, I think those were the richest moments of my life. But I didn't see it that way back then. Back then, I was busy. Busy working, busy providing, busy thinking that as long as I was doing my job, everything else would take care of itself. And somewhere along the way, my habits started to change. I began eating more out of convenience, whatever was quick, whatever filled me up after a long day. I stopped paying attention, not just to the food, but to what my body was trying to tell me. Little things at first, feeling tired more often, a bit heavier, slower than I used to be. But I ignored it. We all do, don't we? You tell yourself it's nothing, just part of getting older, something you'll deal with later. There's that word again, later. And the truth is, life still felt good, stable, predictable. I had my wife beside me, my kids growing up, a roof over my head, and food on the table. I thought that was enough. I thought that meant everything was okay. But now, sitting here all these years later, I can see it clearly. I was living on borrowed time, and I didn't even know it. Because one day, without warning, everything I thought was steady and certain changed. It didn't happen all at once. That's the part people don't expect. They think life changes in a single moment, some loud, dramatic event that splits everything into before and after. But for me, it crept in slowly, quietly, like something I kept pushing aside until it had nowhere left to go. I remember feeling tired more often. Not the kind of tired a good night's sleep fixes, but something deeper. My chest would feel tight some days. I'd get short of breath just walking across the yard. Small things started to feel heavier. My wife noticed before I did. She'd look at me a certain way, concerned, but gentle. She'd say, "You should get that checked." And I'd wave it off, every time. "I'm fine," I'd tell her. That was my answer for everything back then. I'm fine. But I wasn't. The day it all caught up with me was an ordinary day. That's what I remember most. Nothing special about it. I had just finished a meal. Nothing I hadn't eaten 100 times before, and I sat down in my chair. Then it hit me. A sharp pressure in my chest. Not pain exactly, more like something heavy pressing down from the inside. My breathing changed, shallow, uneven. I tried to stand up, but my legs didn't respond the way they should have. And for the first time in my life, I felt afraid of my own body. My wife rushed over. I could see it in her eyes. This wasn't something I could brush off anymore. There was no "I'm fine" left to say. The next thing I remember clearly is the hospital. White walls, that faint smell of antiseptic, machines making sounds I didn't understand, and a doctor standing at the foot of my bed. He wasn't much older than my oldest son. He spoke calmly, but his words didn't feel calm at all. He told me I had pushed my body too far for too long, that the years of ignoring the signs, the habits I never questioned, they had finally caught up with me. I asked him straight, "How bad is it?" And he paused. That pause told me everything before he even opened his mouth. He said, "If you don't change, you may not have much time left." I didn't believe him. I had lived my whole life thinking I was strong enough to handle anything, that as long as I kept going, things would work out. So I sat there, staring at the ceiling, telling myself he was wrong. But then I turned my head, and I saw my wife sitting beside me, quiet, holding her hands together like she was trying to keep them from shaking. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not the doctor's words, not the machines, her silence, the look on her face, like she was already preparing herself for something she didn't want to face. That's when the denial started to crack. That's when the truth finally made its way in. I had done this to myself. All those years of saying later, all those warnings I ignored, all those small choices that didn't seem to matter at the time, they led me right there, to that bed, to that moment. And for the first time, I realized I might not get another chance to fix it. I remember lying there that night, unable to sleep, listening to the sounds of the hospital, and I made a decision, a quiet one. No promises out loud, no big declarations, just a simple thought that kept repeating in my mind. If I walk out of here, I won't live the same way again. But what I didn't know then was that changing how you live comes with a cost. When I left that hospital, I didn't feel like a new man. I felt like a man who had been warned. There's a difference. People think change happens overnight, that you walk out those doors and suddenly everything is different. But the truth is, the real work starts when you get back home, back to the same chair, the same kitchen, the same habits waiting for you like they never left. The first few days were the hardest. I remember standing in front of the cupboard, staring at the same foods I'd been eating for years. Things that used to bring comfort suddenly felt like reminders, like quiet little warnings sitting on every shelf. I had to start over, slowly, painfully in some ways. I began eating differently, simpler, smaller portions. Foods I hadn't paid much attention to before started becoming part of my daily life. Not because I enjoyed them, but because I was afraid not to. That's the part people don't like to hear. It wasn't motivation that changed me. It was fear. Every meal felt like a decision that mattered more than it ever had before. And at first, it was lonely. You don't realize how much of life revolves around food until you start changing it. The smells, the routines, the little moments you share with people, it all shifts. My wife tried to follow along with me. She'd cook differently, adjust recipes, make sure I was eating what the doctor suggested. She never complained. Not once, but I could tell things weren't the same. We used to sit down and enjoy our meals, talk about the day, take our time. Now I was thinking about every bite, measuring, limiting, choosing carefully. Food stopped being something we shared and became something I controlled. Over time, the house grew quieter. The kids got older. They had their own lives. Visits became less frequent, phone calls shorter. That's how it happens. Not all at once, just a little less each year. And somewhere along the way, I found myself sitting at that same table, alone more often than not. That's when those 6 foods became part of my life. Not as a plan, not as some brand idea, just repetition. The same things, day after day. Simple, consistent, predictable. They gave me something I could rely on when everything else started to feel uncertain. Each one carries a memory now. One reminds me of mornings with my wife, when the house was still full of life. Another, of a conversation I wish I had taken more seriously. And one I still struggle with, reminds me of a moment I'd give anything to go back and change. I don't talk about that one much. Some things stay with you, no matter how many years pass. Physically, I started to improve. Slowly. My strength came back in small ways. My breathing got easier. The doctor's visits became less tense. But inside, things were different. Living longer doesn't mean everything gets better. You carry things with you. Regrets, silence, the weight of time. There were days I wondered if I had started too late. If all the discipline, all the change, was just delaying something I should have faced sooner. But I kept going, one meal at a time, one day at a time, because at that point, stopping wasn't an option. Years passed like that, quietly, and somewhere in that quiet, in the repetition, the routine, the loneliness, I began to understand something I had missed my entire life. Something no doctor had ever told me, and something I wish, more than anything, I had learned sooner. When you live long enough, you start to see patterns, not just in the world, but in your own life. The same choices, the same habits, the same ways of thinking that quietly shape everything, whether you notice them or not. I've had a lot of time to sit with that, more time than most. And somewhere along the years, between those quiet mornings and long evenings, I began to understand something I wish I had seen much earlier. It wasn't just the food. That's what people want to hear, that there's a list, a formula, 6 things you can eat, and suddenly you'll live longer, feel better, fix everything. But that's not how it works. Those 6 foods, they helped, yes. They gave me structure. They gave me discipline when I didn't have it before. They reminded me every single day that my choices mattered. But they weren't the reason I'm still here. The real reason was consistency. Simple, steady, sometimes boring consistency. Doing the same small things over and over again, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. That's what builds a life. Not the big moments, not the promises you make when you're scared. It's what you do the next day and the day after that. I didn't understand that when I was younger. Back then, I thought I had time to fix things later, time to take care of myself after the work was done, after the kids were grown, after life slowed down. But life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It just keeps moving. And if you're not paying attention, you wake up one day and realize you've been trading your health, your time, even your relationships for things that don't last. That's something I carry with me. The regret of not being more present, not sitting a little longer at the table when my kids were still there, not listening as closely as I should have when my wife spoke to me in that quiet way she had. I was there, but not really there, and no amount of healthy eating can give that time back. That's the part people don't talk about when they talk about living a long life. Longevity isn't just a gift. Sometimes it's a mirror. You get to look back, to remember, to replay moments you wish you had handled differently. And you realize being alive isn't the same as truly living. If I could go back, I'd still take care of my body. I'd still make better choices earlier. I wouldn't wait for a hospital bed to scare me into changing. But more than that, I'd slow down. I'd pay attention to the people sitting across from me. I'd understand that health isn't just about what you eat. It's about how you live, how you love, how you spend the time you've been given. Because in the end, all those small choices add up, not just in years, but in meaning. And if there's one thing 106 years has taught me, it's that a long life only matters if you know what you're living it for. If you're still listening to me, I want to talk to you for a moment, not as someone who's figured everything out, but as someone who's had more time than most to think about what really matters. I know life gets busy. You wake up, you go to work, you handle responsibilities, you come home tired, and somewhere in between all that, you tell yourself you'll take better care of things later. Your health, your time, your relationships. Later feels safe, like a promise you can always keep. I'm here to tell you, later isn't guaranteed. So, if there's anything worth holding on to from what I've said, it's this. Don't wait for something to break before you start paying attention. Take care of your body now, not out of fear, but out of respect. You only get one, and it keeps track of everything, every habit, every shortcut, every time you ignore what it's trying to tell you. Keep things simple. You don't need complicated plans or perfect routines. Most of what kept me going all these years came down to consistency. Eating simple foods, living in a steady way, not chasing too much, not ignoring too much either. Just showing up for yourself every day. But don't make the mistake I made. Don't let discipline take the place of connection. Sit at the table a little longer. Call your family, even when you don't feel like it. Listen when someone speaks to you, not just to respond, but to understand. Because one day, those moments won't be there waiting for you, and no amount of years can bring them back. I spent a good part of my life thinking that providing was enough, that if I worked hard, kept things running, did what I was supposed to do, everything else would fall into place. But life isn't built on what you provide. It's built on what you share, the time you give, the attention you offer, the love you don't hold back. That's what stays with people. That's what stays with you. Now, as for those 6 foods everyone keeps asking about, yes, they helped me. They gave me structure when I needed it most. They kept me grounded when everything else felt like it was slipping away. And maybe, just maybe, they gave me a few more years. But those years taught me something much bigger than what was on my plate. They taught me that living longer doesn't mean much if you don't know how to live well. So take care of your body. Be mindful of what you put into it. But don't forget to take care of the people around you too. It's not the meals you'll remember most. It's who you shared them with. And one day, when the house gets quiet, like mine has, you'll understand what I mean. So while you still can, slow down, look around, and hold on to the people at your table. Because one day, the food won't matter nearly as much as who's missing.